Hey, good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Student Body Right, and joining me for the first episode of Knocked on Bills, your immediate 2-minute drill hip reaction to the HBO production Hard Knocks Training Camp 2025 with the Buffalo Bills. I am joined by Trainwreck Sports, often on-field pregame correspondent, often on-field training camp correspondent, and gracing your airways at 7 p.m. for Pay the Bills. Mike Bundt joins me. How you doing, Mike? Good to see you.
I'm doing good, student. Excited to be here and excited to talk about this Hard Knocks episode we just watched.
Yeah, the lights came calling. And just for my airways, I originally had it wrong. I thought it was 10 p.m. So I looked at my phone. It was actually 8:45 p.m. And it didn't feel like a noon kickoff versus a 1 p.m. kickoff, but it charged me up that hour that I got wrong. So that being said, your immediate reaction to the episode of the Bills at the home box office, goosebumps, tears, or you ordered another jersey, Mike?
I mean, out of those three options, I'm probably ordering another jersey. No goosebumps, no tears today, but always excited to have football back and appreciate any behind-the-scenes coverage we get of the team.
Well, that being said, is there anybody on the episode tonight whose jersey is kind of already in your checkout locker?
And nobody from tonight. I already got a lot of the jerseys from the people tonight. I already got Josh Allen. We already have a Trey White for the wife. So
it's a good thing you didn't throw that one out. It came back around.
So nobody based on tonight. But I will say, if there was one person featured tonight that I could see it in the future, it'd be Joshua Palmer. And that's just because I'm a big Josh Palmer guy. I'm excited about what he brings to the table.
Yeah, and I thought they brought up an interesting point, and they talked about what's so paramount in the NFL, Mike, that and that is quarterback, wide receiver synergy. He had a ton of that with his previous quarterback, Josh Herbert over in or Justin Herbert. I misspoke. Over in the Chargers. That synergy of which you kind of want to recapture that you saw at times with Stephon Diggs, and you can even make a case for Khalil Shakir about being in the right place, being at the right time, knowing when to break off reads, and making the defensive backs cover every blade of grass. I thought that was really cool. They touched on kind of the after practice work it takes to developing some of those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a lot of fine tuning, small stuff that people don't realize that goes into this, and just what they showed with Palmer and Josh Allen building up that chemistry. Like that's important stuff that makes a big impact going into the season.
Sure. Now, when we go into the season like that, they did a good job of capturing the duality of us going away. Now, I did not know we were one of only 5 teams that went away to camp. But in showing that, were there any only in Buffalo moments that you saw tonight? Because mine personally, this is how products get made in Buffalo, New York. A cult following, whether it be Fisher Price, whether it be Flutie Flakes, whether it be Josh and Jacks. I thought it was trade hate Sundays. Did you have any of those only in Buffalo moments?
Yeah, that's a good one right there. Where I wonder if that was something that maybe Hard Knocks was telling the players maybe make something fun out of this, or if that was just Trey off the cuff. But that probably would have been the one scene from it. And then obviously when you have the return of the blue and red and you see all the fans for a practice, 40,000 on hand for something like that. Yeah. That kind of gives a little only in Buffalo feel as well.
Or even the fact that the players they profiled are all driving 4-wheel drive vehicles. All of them have 4-wheel drive vehicles, just based on the elements that we have to kind of endure here. And some of the elements are some unruly fans, like you touched on. So on a scale of 1 to throwing a dildo on the field, how hyped are you after watching this episode, Mike?
Oh God, I'll be real.
It's a fan experience, man.
Yeah, if it was 1 to that, I'm probably at a 5 or a 6. I'm excited for the season, but I don't know if Hard Knocks really got me to over the edge right now. I think being at training camp myself did more.
That's what I was going to ask. Did they do a good job of encapsulating kind of what they spoke upon, the the nuance of this Buffalo Bills culture. Whether it be like, it seems like they have scooter gangs up there, whether it be, they're headed to the Pittsburgh Creamery together, capturing a little bit of dorm life. What has been the vibe since you've been such boots on the ground there? And did HBO capture the vibe of this Buffalo Bills upcoming season?
Yeah, I think they did a good job. To me, this episode was more of like an introduction to the Bills. I really didn't feel like we got a real great behind the scenes view of things yet. It was more of, this is the team. Josh is the MVP. Dion is his blindside protector. You have Trey, the old veteran who's now mentoring.
It definitely seemed like a character show.
It didn't seem as much like this is what the culture is. It felt more of, here's the Buffalo Bills for those of you that know nothing about the Buffalo Bills.
Right. And I did feel, I'm happy you brought that up. I did feel that way, as well. And your longtime partner there, also fellow Trainwreck ambassador, AJ Sobalski. It was awesome. AJ, I do agree. No one would ever argue it wasn't awesome. Right. But that does play to my insecurities that letting too many people in about what makes us so great and what makes us 5-time champions. Does that enter your head, or is that just the other foot waiting for me to drop and being always a closeted, pessimist?
You might be a little bit overly pessimistic. I think my thought process is we all kind of know about the Bills culture, at least how they like to run things. And the coaching staff and players from that I've talked to, they've all been really good at kind of blocking out Hard Knocks. Now, it's impossible not to see the cameras.
Sure, it's an all-access account,
But to be honest, like, a lot of people were saying that this is probably going to be boring compared to some of the other teams they've had in the past because there's not as many storylines. And this first episode, you could definitely see they really didn't have a lot of interesting content to build off of. It was more of, here's a little bit of access. Here's a little bit of behind the scenes. But there really wasn't anything that was like manufactured, like big storylines. Now, James Cook could be one later on. And one of these
it certainly has to be, especially
but for a first episode, they didn't really set up anything for how are you going to draw me in for week 2 on this. Like, I'm as Bills fans, I'm super entertained. But if I wasn't a Bills fan and I'm watching this, I'm like, what's the draw for next week?
Now, do you think it's that the players are hyper aware of those cameras? There was a question I was going to ask you. Did Sean McDermott seem more like, the stalwart guru or like a middle school principal? I'd like to ask you that. And do you think, there has to be a meeting there that like, hey, we have granted them, whether it be, free will or not, because we know HBO, it has the ability to pick their teams and there is no saying no. Do you think there is a little bit of media coaching? Like, hey, don't do anything that's not you, because if you tend to go off the script of what makes you a Buffalo Bill, that's tends to end in tears, as we know with some players' departures here.
Yeah, so Bobby Babbitt was asked about Hard Knocks the other day on Monday, and he was asked if he's going to watch it or if he tells the players anything or coaches them up. And he's like, I'm not going to watch it. I hope I'm not on it. And no, we don't need to tell our players how to behave and how to act.
How to be a professional, yeah.
I'm sure that they probably mentioned it in the meetings before camp got underway that, like, hey, there's going to be more cameras here. Like, watch what you say at times. But for the most part, like, you just block it out. You go through practice. You do your normal thing. Some players might be a little bit more energetic in front of the cameras, and then the other players might be more reserved in front of the cameras. So I don't know. I think it kind of balances itself out as far as what you're going to get from certain individuals. But I definitely didn't see anyone acting differently than what I would have expected with the cameras around.
Yeah, with the cameras around and them not giving us too much. As this James Cook situation plays out, is it your hope next week that we have some clarity contractually about what we're going to have in the future? And what is your degree of confidence that in a week's time, something significant could get done where you at least see him on the field as he's been holding out, maybe not holding out, but standing on business during team activities when it comes to performing on the gridiron?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if we get a resolution or not in the next week. If you ask me if that resolution is a contract extension, I don't expect that. I know that there's been reports from Tom Pelissero and Diana Rossini that they're closer than some other hold-ins and situations across the league. Closer according to who?
Who's to say? Yeah.
Who's the person saying it? Is it James Cook? Is it his agent? Is it the Bills? Brandon Beane surely didn't sound like he was close to anything with James Cook when he spoke to WGR on Monday morning. And how does this end? I don't know. I think the answer really is in James Cook, his court right now. Does he want to get back to practice? Does he want to play? Because I don't think they're going to get to a contract extension, and that really ultimately, if that's the end goal for Cook, will he hold out into the regular season? Doesn't seem like to be the smartest thing going into a contract year where you're trying to get paid like a top tier running back. We can talk about Le'Veon Bell and how that worked out for him, but he had no career after he got that contract. And honestly, I don't think Cook missing time is going to really get what a top 3 to 5 running back should get. So I think his best case scenario is go out there, ball, and show teams what you deserve. I guess they could always come to a short-term resolution and give him some more money just to make him feel better about this season. But it seems highly unlikely that an extension will be signed. But what do we know? I mean, we're not behind closed doors.
Absolutely. It's kind of one of those things that Brandon Beane is not one to negotiate in the media. He's not one to trash referees. He's not one to kind of peel back the curtain when there is a live, volatile and ongoing situation that is being addressed. I think one of the things we can take from this too is that we don't want anything to the degree of what Micah Parsons is going through, where there's a conflicting narrative and the fan base is divided, because the fan base isn't divided that everybody wants James Cook back. There's not too many dissenters about that. Much like Micah Parsons, there's not too many dissenters that say we don't want Micah Parsons back. It's when you kind of sow the narrative of conflicting reports and people get divided as to who to believe. I think that is something the Bills currently have control more so than the Cowboys have of that narrative right now. And I'd like to see it move forward if it's in interest of getting an equitable deal done. The key word there being an equitable deal. Do you think he's a top 3 running back pay rather than or versus, is he a top 3 running back? Or do those things have to be completely aligned, or does the contract and the market kind of dictate where he's going to come in at?
I think the market is the most important thing right now. He's not a top 3 running back in the NFL. He's a very
top 3 money. Yeah.
But I don't even think he truly believes he's going to get $15 million plus either. I believe that's just a way to start negotiations, basically telling the Bills, you better pay up. I'm not going to take no discount just to stay with the team. So yeah, the top 3 right now in my head, you got to go Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, and Derrick Henry. And then beyond that, okay, there's a bunch of other guys that you could probably put James Cook in that group. Kyron Williams just signed a 3-year, $33 million contract.
Yeah.
I don't know the guaranteed money or anything like that, but that's a good comparable for James Cook. Similar yardage. Kyron Williams has actually had better touchdown production the last 2 years. Cook had a better touchdown season this past year, but I would say 3 years, $33 million seems like the sweet spot. If I was the Buffalo Bills, Cook might be trying to push it that to 13, 14.
Now, when you say Cook, is that Dalvin or is that James Cook who's pushing that number? Because I feel like Dalvin has to be in his ear. He has to.
It could be both of them. Obviously, when you look at Dalvin Cook, he never really got the money that he deserved throughout his career.
Correct.
And I think that plays a big role in what James is thinking. He doesn't want to just play his whole career and not get paid. So I can't really blame him, because you look at Dalvin Cook's career, he did a lot of great things. And he never really got paid significantly for what he did. And running backs, they do have a fair argument that they don't get paid based on what they do. They get drafted, they get their rookie contracts. So they're basically getting paid based on where they're drafted. And then when it comes to getting their first contracts in free agency, teams then say you're not worth it anymore. I can just replace you with another running back in the draft or a cheap free agent, and then they have to most of the time sign another cheap or average contract. So James Cook is what, 25 right now. He looks at it as he has a lot of time in front of him, and I don't blame him for wanting to get his money, but I also don't blame the Bills for not wanting to pay him more than market value.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that they touched on almost in linear terms. They showed some good James Cook stuff, and then they saw a guy who went away for a year. They saw a guy like Trey White, who seems ecstatic to be back. I thought it was really touching. We got a little lens in that on Twitter of Deion's kids, calling him Uncle Trey and everything like that, and just the jubilation to return to the red, white, and blue. Now, you also saw a guy who's always been the red, white, and blue, Josh, and what he means to this community. What do you think his sideline and huddle banter on a scale of 1 to 10 has got to? They're talking physics out there. They were talking Galileo. He knew the acceleration rate of gravity. Is that like a, God, you are a golden retriever? It's like, or wow, we have a pretty intelligent guy who went to a public university in Wyoming. I thought it was kind of funny that they profiled that.
Yeah, I think that Josh probably is a little bit out there at times, but I mean, when you are an MVP quarterback that's married to an Oscar-nominated actress and you are worth over $250 million, you can kind of be whoever you want to be. You don't need to hide yourself from anyone else. Who cares what people think of you? You're the man. Everyone else just wants to be around you. So yeah, I think Josh has always had an interesting side to him. And you always used to hear earlier in his career that players referred to him as a dog. And then you kind of see the comedy, the type of humor that he was into. Josh definitely has an interesting dynamic to him, where if he wasn't the golden retriever, 6'5" quarterback, some people would probably find it a little bit weird, but it just fits with the dynamic he has in Buffalo. Yeah,
absolutely. And the dynamic of Buffalo, I know we're both Southern tier kind of lake guys. It's interesting that, the Schno drift pit is just, a mile down my street. And that brought some clarity as to some of the commotion sometimes I hear when I'm out in my backyard. It's interesting that, something like drifting isn't in the contracts of no unnecessarily dangerous risks. Kind of the movie The Program. I'm sure you're familiar with their starting quarterback Kane, when they take away the motorcycle keys. That kind of struck me as cool. He has some of the side passions, and I kind of really love that the players allowed these cameras into their homes, and the support system of which it takes from a spouse like Haley and a spouse of Deion's and Alex from Dawson Knox, about how they just trying to want to make comfortable living out of a really uncomfortable kind of situation. They got into the mattress toppers and everything like that. Did it make you miss college at Ohio University at all? Are you kind of happy to get away from those crowded dorms? Because I know you probably still have some friends from Ohio that you still talk to, because those relationships kind of in those close quarters are everything that makes the difference when trying to form a long-term bond that takes you through the season.
Yeah, I don't know if I miss being cramped in a dorm room for an entire semester or two, but it does. You do build camaraderie, and you do build friendships and things that you cherish for life when you're in those moments. I know they're just there for a couple weeks, but it is kind of a fun, unique experience that all the players get to go through during that period of time. Now, I'll tell you personally, I loved the food in college. I love the college.
You're a masochist.
The dining hall food. Like I didn't mind having a boiled hot dog and chicken fingers and chicken patties and ravioli. Like honestly, if you told me right now I could go back to my college dining hall for like a meal tomorrow, I'd say like, let's go. Like,
dude, come on.
I'd be so excited for it. But they also renovated those before I got there, so that was nice.
Well, you were of the volition that Ohio University has the most stunning campus, and I think one of the shots you posted was of the highway, but there was a river running through it or something like that. I remember that back in the day. But
no, it's so and it is kind of it made me think a little bit about my time, and it's weird because, like, to be honest, I do think there was a period where the Bills probably wanted to get away from St. John Fisher, and the reaction
all those years of Fredonia.
Yeah, and the reaction from the fans was kind of like, no, we like this. Like, we like being around. So the Bills keep doing it. But I do believe at one period of time, probably around COVID, when they had the blue and red, that the plan probably at one point was, okay, we'll just do one big stadium practice a year and that'll do it. But they've continued to stick with it, and now it has so much charm, and I can't imagine them not having training camp at St. John Fisher.
Well, Mike, as we kind of wrap this up, once again, this is Knocked On Bills, a dual initiative between Do Champions and Trainwreck Sports. You can catch us after the HBO. Mike might be back next week. I might be back next week. We're going to leave it up to you guys if you enjoy this type of comment. But do follow Mike Tuesday nights for the Pay the Bills podcast, as well as Trainwreck Sports, as well as myself, Student Body Right, for Saturdays at 9 p.m. with my partner, Matt Digert, for Third and Manageable. Two last questions, Mike, as we wrap this up, trying to make it quick hitting. What was the vibe you were left with after the red and blue scrimmage? Were you disappointed that Josh didn't take as many snaps as some fans had hoped with almost 40,000 on hand? Or do you kind of get it? And what did you take away in your total experience this offseason, covering so much of camp as we ramp up into the 2025 season?
So my answer, being truthful, is a little bit of both regarding the blue and red. I thought it makes sense from the Bills to let your quarterback, your MVP, to see things from a different vantage point at times, to not just have him take over every practice and dominate and do his thing. But at the same point, I thought it did lack a little bit of awareness when you have nearly 40,000 fans on hand and you don't trot them out there for team drills at all. So at the end of the day, the most important thing is the Bills winning a Super Bowl and getting themselves prepared to do that. But I also thought they could have thrown the fans a bone and done a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to go out of my way to complain and be like, oh, how dare they? Like, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to be like that. But I do think it's fair for like fans that brought youngsters to be slightly disappointed, because even though he does trot around, he throws the football around, that's for all of the people in the first couple rows. If you're one of the other 35,000 people that's sitting in row 10 and beyond, then you don't get that up close interaction.
And for a lot of those fans, especially the younger ones, that's going to be the only time they actually see them in person, whether it be ticket prices, whether it be scarcity.
In last year in the stadium, so I thought the Bills' presentation could have been much better. Now, that's not to say like, oh, I'm angry at the Bills, I'm mad at the Bills, but this is a very highly attended event. There was very little engagement between the Bills staff and the fans. Now, players do their thing, they get autographs, they interact, but and I know this is a practice, so it's not like a normal event, but there's ways I thought the Bills could have been more engaging with things in the Jumbotron and other things. And I understand they're not trying to distract from the players during practice, but
because it is a practice.
Because that is what it is at the end of the day. And maybe that's what the coaches, part of how they get this done. The coaches are like, yeah, we'll do this practice as long as like that's the focus.
Remains the main thing. Yeah.
It's just, there's, I think, the better ways of where they could manage the two sides, and instead of just basically having 40,000 people come in, have people getting concessions, and then just sitting there and barely knowing what's going on. Because if you're if you're a kid and you're watching that, and I know it's not about just the kids, it's about the product on the field. The individual drills, you don't see anything that, like, you don't understand it. They're stretching for other parts. And then you have team drills, and it's Mr. Trubisky and it's Mike White and Shane Buechele, and you're like, where's Josh? And you and I, like, we know what they're doing in individual drills. Obviously, Josh was out for 7-on-7, so they did get to see him throwing around a little bit. But it's, some people won't call them out on it because they're super fans and they can't stand for anything negative being spoken about their team. And then other people, they're going to go too far and they're going to say it's a disgrace. It's awful.
Slap in the face, yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, like, it's a practice. But the Bills could have put a little bit more effort, not the team, but the marketing, the game day management side of things could have put a little bit more effort into trying to make it a little bit more engaging for the fans.
Sure, absolutely. And as we wrap this up, Mike, I do have a question. How many games can we expect you at? How many home games are you traveling away? And the second part, what's your tweet length review of the first snapshot of the Buffalo Bills on the Home Box Office Network.
Yeah, I'll be at a bunch of games this year. So count me in for every home game. So that's 9, right? So unless I somehow end up selling tickets to one, but I'll be at all 9 regular season home games. Won't be at the preseason game. Got to work that day. And then thinking about going to Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Now I was hoping,
keep it manageable.
yeah, I was hoping Pittsburgh and Cleveland were going to be in like September, October when weather is good and you can be comfortable and enjoy an early season Bills game. Late November and right before Christmas are the 2 like worst times of the year to go to Pittsburgh or Cleveland. like the Pittsburgh game now might be even more expensive because Rodgers is there, so that ticket just
sure.
The price.
There's got to be an uptick, yeah.
And Cleveland, it's not that like that's probably going to be a win. It's probably going to be a game that means nothing to Cleveland. It'll probably be a fun time. But Cleveland in
mid-December
doesn't seem intriguing to me. And I say that as someone that lived in Ohio for 5 years and
someone who's still living, on the outskirts of the lake.
Yeah, I live on the same lake, and I love Ohio, but I would rather be in Cleveland in the fall than in December. So I'll probably be at around 10 or 11 games, and then whatever home playoff games they get after that.
Hey, it certainly seems like Mr. Brightside is here to stay, by the way. The way they
yeah,
do we leave that in 2024? I'll say it, man. I'll say it. I'm good without it, but if it means something to the players,
dude, it's tough for me. This is tough. I don't tell people what they should like, what they don't like. If people like something, I'm cool with it as long as it's not hurting anybody. So if Bills fans like Mr. Brightside and they want to like have that be the team theme song when they're leading the fourth quarter, I'm fine with it. But all good things normally come to an end, and over time, people normally don't love the things that they loved 6 months ago, a year ago, a year and a half ago.
It's like this. It's like the cyclicalness of helmets.
Yeah. So
you know what I mean?
What I think is going to happen is it's going to grow old to a lot of fans at some point. It's going to feel
especially if they're not playing to the caliber of which you associate the song with.
Yeah, like there's going to be like a game in October when the Bills are like say the Bills are like 4-2 and they're up by like 3 points in the fourth quarter, playing like a mid team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or whoever they're playing at home. And you're going to be like, am I really supposed to sing this right now? Because we're leading by like 4 points with like 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter against like a 2-3 team. It was great last year because obviously Dawson Knox got married. They were rocking out to it.
There's
caught on Dalton and Kincaid and Knox, and Allen liked it. And then they were having such a surprising year where they overperformed after resetting the roster, and it kind of caught on. They didn't lose a home game all season. What happens the first time they're losing in the fourth quarter of a game? What happens if they blow a lead after they play the song? Like, it's just one of those things where I like the Killers, I like the band, but whenever you hear a song too much, you're always like, it goes from loving it to like, that's old. And I just wonder what's going to happen like the first time like the crowd just doesn't respond to it. Like, is that going to be it for it?
The only song that never gets old for me is Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan. So, Mike, I want to thank you for coming on.
I love Hot to Go.
I want to thank you for coming on. You can catch Mike Bundt on Twitter, as well as wrapping up training camp, as well as his Tuesday night at 7 p.m. podcast, immensely popular, Pay the Bills on the Trainwreck Network. I am Student Body Right. You can catch me on Saturday nights with my partner, Matt Dygert, from the Third and Manageable podcast. To play us out, man. This was fun. Hopefully I'll see you next Tuesday. Hey, Mike, good to be seen, buddy. Talk to you later.
Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout. Shout it right.